Hi, my name is Dustin Belcher. I'm the Director of Recreation from CRA, and I proudly serve as the Chairman of our Hall of Fame. I welcome you here today to take part in our induction ceremony virtually of the class of 2020. I am very excited to be able to celebrate and induct great coaches, athletes, contributors, and teams into our Hall of Fame. Although this event looks far different than what we had imagined, we were committed to making today special for all of our inductees. The Hall of Fame project would not be possible without the incredible dedication of our event committee, our nomination committee, and our executive committee, who put in countless hours to offer both an intimate, in-person event and a full virtual event for everyone to enjoy. Also, without the guidance and expertise of Eric Shepard and Silverwhite Media, none of this would be possible. In 1923, the W. Murray Crane Community House was built with a clearly defined mission of providing recreation and social activities for the community. Almost 100 years later, we continue to deliver those programs, and the Hall of Fame was created as a way to remind us of the great stories of yesterday that have laid the foundation of success we enjoy today in athletics. Throughout the induction ceremony, you will hear the stories, stats, and awards that have been won. Some of these stories will be well known, while others you'll hear for the first time, but they will all impress and inspire you. I have often said we are a small town with a big heart, a community proud of its history, and today we take a moment to celebrate those that have played a key role in making us the best sports community in the area. We have a chance to thank LP Adams for over 50 years of dedication to our programs and our community. We have a chance to say to Dick Cayley, thank you for showing us the way, volunteering as a coach, serving on youth sports boards, and shaping the youth sports in our community. Dick Cayley gave us a blueprint for how things were done. Coaches carried that out for years to come, like Jim O'Connor and Fran Reardon. And as times changed, so did we. Mike Cooney is a male coach successfully leading female athletes to championships, paving the way for guys like Jim Duquette and others to do the same. Today we will honor some of the finest teachers who use the field and the court as an extension of their classroom. We honor two great teams, an undersized 1992-93 boys basketball team that dominated the hardwood, and a 1996 girls soccer team that brought us home a state title. We honor great individual athletes, Kate Wickham, Diane Tedford, Eric McElwain, who are all record-holding members, not just at the high school level, but in college and beyond. Today we talk about great three-sport athletes, Marianne Lombardi, who was often referred to as the first great female athlete. Highly decorated athletes like Scott Pudlow or Richie Zink, who was recognized by the Berkshire Eagles as a top 50 athlete of all time. All of these athletes benefited from following the path set by Mark Pupor and Craig Crozier, who played football, basketball, and baseball. Baseball. Certainly, there is no shortage of great baseball history in our town. Everett Calkins and Phil Lennon were part of the amazing history of the 1940s and 50s. And Gino Quirk, who was a great athlete, excelled on the diamond. And of course, today we will induct Matt White, who joins the likes of Turk Wendell and Jeff Reardon as guys who have towed the rubber in Major League ballparks. This event is about recognizing and honoring our inductees, but it's also an opportunity to thank them. Thank them for paving the way and showing us how success is built and made on the athletic fields. At this time, I would like to ask Executive Committee member Jackie McLaughlin to introduce our keynote speaker.
It is my honor to stand before you and introduce the keynote speaker for the 2020 Hall of Fame induction, because it is my brother, Jim Duquette. Jim is the oldest in our family of 5 kids. He was someone that you could always turn to for gentle and kind, but firm advice, who would offer insight into situations that we didn't want to necessarily tell our parents. He was a rule follower, like most firstborns, and was a tough act to follow, at least for my 3 other brothers. I remember the day that my parents dropped him off at college. That night, my mom sat where he usually sat at the dinner table and cried the entire time we ate dinner. We had our suspicions growing up, but from then on, we knew that he was at least my mom's favorite child. One Sunday dinner at my parents', my mom made apple pie for dessert and forgot to add sugar. You can bet that the next week when Jim came home for that Sunday dinner, there was plenty of sugar in that apple pie. Going on family trips in our station wagon that had the third bench seat in the way back, so that anyone that had to sit back there rode everywhere backwards. Guess who never had to sit back there? You got it, Jim. He was probably the best overall athlete in our house, and traveling to his games allowed us to experience things that we might not have had the opportunity to do otherwise. When he was chosen to play in the Division III All-Star game his senior year at Williams, my family was sitting 2 rows behind the dugout at Fenway Park. I remember the Jumbotron captured him and the big smile on his face as he ran in from the outfield at the end of the inning, and it actually froze and stayed there for at least an inning or 2. We all thought that was so cool. He was a true player, a true student of whatever sport he was playing, often discussing strategies with my dad. His successes both on and off the field make him a great choice to be a keynote speaker. He has had to overcome many obstacles along the way, both good and bad. But one of the biggest obstacles that he and his family overcame was watching his younger daughter battle back from a rare kidney disease. She suffered years of treatments and extended stays in hospitals before Jim was able to give her one of his kidneys. It is an instinctual act of love that any parent would do for one of their kids, but a true characteristic of my brother, selfless. As one of my brothers said, he was the first son. If you're going to raise a big family, you need to get it right with the first one. Then everything falls into place. Well, my parents surely did it right with Jim. It is my honor to welcome someone that I am proud to call my big brother, Jim Duquette.
Thank you, Jackie, for the kind words, and thank you to the committee, Dustin in particular, everyone that's involved with these ceremonies for inviting me back to say a few words to this year's class. Congratulations, by the way, to the 2020 inductees. We had a great time last year. I wish you guys could have experienced the same thing that we did. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we can't, but nonetheless, maybe 5 years from now when we have everybody back, I'll throw that out there, that maybe we can have all of the teams back and celebrate them. I hope you get a chance to come back to the town and celebrate that with your teammates. It was something to be a part of and to be seen going to the football field at the football game and in the whole ceremony at the country club. So I hope you get a chance to do that. Unfortunately, we can't right now. We got to do this by video. And I'd like to pass along a few thoughts of mine to this year's class, the induction class, in the meaning of this award to me, to the class from last year, and why I think our town is so special on the athletic front. Now, the theme for this year is overcoming the odds. And despite the obvious of overcoming the pandemic and the virus, I think there are some things growing up in our small town that we all experienced at some point. Anytime we left the county, we were the David versus the Goliath of the big city, especially if we went further east of Springfield. We were always up against the teams. We were underrated on the basketball court. Sometimes we were undersized there on the football field, the soccer field, the baseball field, girls or boys. That's just the way it was. I think any of the competition, as soon as we traveled east, that was usually what the articles were written, was the small town team trying to overcome the odds. I think the best part of us winning in anything was the fact that we didn't read those articles. We didn't believe in them. We never thought about it that way, I don't believe. We just kept it simple. We stuck to our strengths. We made the adjustments along the way. We stuck to a game plan. We knew what our strengths were. And when we executed those, we could compete with anybody in the western part of the state and anybody in the county and anybody in the whole state. And I think that when you think about that, and I'll go to the 93 basketball team, that's a perfect example of this. No one was taller than 6'2". The strength of that team was shooting threes pretty much all game, and no one could stop it. They didn't have one guy that you could focus on. The 93 team, and they all kind of stuck to their strength. They continued to throw up the threes, and it worked. It worked against a team in Greenfield that had a kid 6'9". They had 6'7", 6'5". I mean, there's no way that really we should have been competing with a team like that, the size that they had. But to that credit to the team, they stuck to that plan. Man, they dominated. If you think about it, they dominated the county and they end up dominating, going all the way to the states because of that game plan and that swagger that team in particular had. If you go back to even the 96 girls soccer team, that wasn't maybe one of the closest teams off the field in talking to some of the girls that were part of that team. But when they were asked to go and play in different positions and sacrifice their own personal goals for the betterment of the team and to play different positions that maybe they weren't comfortable playing, and then playing as a team, playing as a group, playing for the betterment of the group itself, the collective group, that was the strength of that club. I don't think they lost a game the entire year, went all the way to the state finals, and then had all of those overtimes that they couldn't end up, no one ended up winning. They ended up having co-state champs. But that team was emblematic of the sacrifice and the selflessness that it takes for a small town like ours to win against some of the bigger teams and the larger teams in the state. When you think back to those teams, and even the ones that were celebrated last year, the 83 undefeated football team, the 96 girls soccer team, the 87 state boys team. I think it was the 86 girls soccer team, sorry, and the 87 state boys basketball team. We had great examples of people before us that preceded us that we wanted to copy and emulate. What do I mean by that? Well, if you go back to the late 70s, the teams that Johnny Kovacs was a part of, that group, or the football teams that Richie Zink was a part of, all those great football teams that was coached by Jim O'Connor, the baseball teams that Jeff Reardon and Gino Quirk and my cousin Dan were involved with, any of those teams, the Western Mass girls basketball team, the first girls basketball team from Wacona to win the Western Mass championship, led by Marianne Lombardi. You go back even further, Mark Pupor, Craig Crozier, Kevin Hunt, Phil Lennon, all those guys. They were all individuals that were part of these teams that set the standard for us to follow in. And I still remember one of the first fire truck escorts through the town after a Western Mass championship game, and wanting to be a part of that when I grew up, wanting to be a part of that when I was in high school. And that pushed us, and so we were so appreciative and so thankful for those people that came before us. They paved the way for us. And I think that really was a big part of our success. That success, that underdog as a small town, I think we've always had to overcome the bigger schools, the more talented schools. And I really feel like it started in the late 70s. But to our town's credit, we figured out ways to overcome the odds. I think it's always started with our youth programs. And I said this last year to Gary Campbell, but when we had the parks and the parks were open, and Pine Grove Park and the Legion and Greenwich Plaza, all the parks that were open, those days they created a kind of a loose structure for us to play, boys and girls, to play as many sports as we wanted. It was, it was a competitive. We learned how to play together as a group. We learned to play other sports. We honed our athleticism. We played against other towns, and we played against Pittsfield and CYC, and that kind of bled into the middle school. And as we played in some of those all-star teams and learned if we could compete or not, learned how to compete, learned how to really become better athletes and better teammates. Even if we lost, we figured out the way where our weaknesses were, so that when we got to high school and we faced off against the same kids, primarily we ended up beating them more times than not, and payback is really what we ended up getting oftentimes. So the small town that we had, the organizations that we had, I think all of that structure was critical for our success, and it still is critical to our success. It was fostered and organized and supported by so many people. Like it's almost impossible to thank them all. But this year, LP Adams, the Cayley family, they're celebrated, of course. But the Cormiers and the Lombards and the Dalton Benefit Association and the Youth Center and the CRA. And, I mean, so many other people around town that supported that foundation that has been there, that has made Dalton's success the way it has. The things that we learned at the youth level, it was competing, it was teamwork, finding your strengths, letting us fail, figure out how to improve, pushing ourselves, all of those things. Those principles we took with us beyond high school. And I'll tell you this, I know my brother, Pat, who's coaching college basketball, Megan Vaughn, who's coaching girls basketball. They have taken what they've learned in this town and taken it to the college level. When Turk Wendell and Matt White and Jeff Reardon and Gino Quirk all played professionally, and three of those guys at the major league level, which is unbelievable. You want to talk about underdogs overcoming the odds to play at the major league level in baseball. They took what they learned in our programs and brought them to the major leagues. And my cousin and myself, when we spoke to our players, our minor league players, our major league players, specifically with the Red Sox and the Mets and the Orioles, our message was outwork the others, learn the fundamentals, pound the fundamentals, find great teachers or coaches that could communicate with the players, relate to the players, being committed to excellence at the highest level. These were all messages that were taught and pounded into us by some of the best coaches and teachers we could have ever had. And it was starting at the youth level, but it went on into the high school level. When you were coached by Jim O'Connor and Ed Ladley and Jim Rivers and Fran Reardon and Gary Campbell, those teams that we were coached by, Boog, you name it, Mike Cooney, we were never overmatched. We were never outclassed, and never were we outcoached. And I think their confidence as coaches and their guidance and their passion for what they did, they helped us, but they've also been passed on at the highest level. So thank you, all of you, for that. Finally, I want to thank my father, who is obviously inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. And he's looking down at all of us and so thankful. If he was here, he'd be going for his walks throughout town and celebrating this entire class. But obviously he's not here, along with many others. And I think his influence on us in our family, but as athletes, as coaches, and executives, I think what he did, some of the things that he relayed, I want to relay because we've kind of, I think, all espoused this in our town. He passed it on, but our other coaches passed it on as well. He helped push us, motivate us. He showed us the way in his classes. He was philosophical. If you ever were in his philosophy and literature class, don't tell me you read Atlas Shrugged, because I know nobody read it from cover to cover. If you did, you're lying. You were kissing up to him. But those messages that he would relay to us as students, and when he was coaching, they continued to, I think, define us and define me and our family members for forever. And I'm forever grateful of that. Obviously some of the things that he would say, like, we know this, this ride your tigers or else they'll eat you up. That was his main one, right? Approach each day with zest and gusto, animal vigor, intellectual vitality, fun, and love. That was a common one that he talked about. But he had a few others that I wanted to pass on to you that we would, on occasion pass on to others, or we felt or were embodied in our town, I believe. It's not just being in the arena or on the field that matters most, because there's no second place. And we really felt that, I think, when we competed. We weren't competing for second place. We were competing to win everything. And I think that was what embodied our town. I think some of the other thing that he talked about a lot, today's headlines wrap tomorrow's garbage. And that one is one of my favorites because it shows a humility. Like, we're not going to get caught up in the headlines of today, whether we won or whether we didn't. Tomorrow is another day. It wraps the garbage. And we need to move on to the next challenge or the next team that we're going to play. So that one was one of my favorites. There's no participation trophy. There's no fire truck escort for second place. And that was obviously very apparent. The only thing that holds us back from greatness are our own limitations. And if you really think about it, that is true in any way of life, not just on the athletic field. And lastly, the quote that I wanted to pass on, that he shared with our family in a letter that he wrote before he passed away. He wrote a letter to all of us. It was meant to illustrate his total love for us, but I think it also applied to how he felt about Wacona, how he felt about the youth program, how he felt about Dalton in the community. It was this quote, "I am never away from you, even now, I shall not leave you. In another world, I shall be still that one who loves you beyond measure. And if you really think about those lines, take out the personal meaning about it, all of our coaches, the ones that have passed away, Jim O'Connor, Ed Ladley, Boog, Jim Rivers, and even the ones that are currently still with us that maybe are retired, they felt that way too and have felt that way. And that's the beauty of our town, I think, overall. The recipe to overcoming the odds and the reason why our town will continue to overcome the odds is because of the examples that came before us, the foundation that's been built over the years, and the continued support that our programs receive both financially and in the coaching ranks. So it's time to toast this year's class, from last year's inductees, from the town of Dalton, and all of our families that are spread out all over the country, to the outstanding class of 2020. Congratulations, and enjoy the ceremony.
My name is Pat West, and I am addressing you as the President of the Board of Trustees for the CRA in Dalton, Massachusetts. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the Dalton CRA Hall of Fame. It's also my great pleasure to serve on the Executive Committee for the Hall of Fame. The CRA is the hub of activity for Dalton and the Hill Towns. And now, in our 97th year, our membership and programs continue to grow. As we rapidly move toward our second century of operation, we believe it's important to remember all those who came before us and who helped us create a rich and diverse legacy. That was the reason we looked for a permanent home to share the great stories of athletics in our community. A place to remind us of the athletes, coaches, teams, and contributors who helped form the history of sports programs. This year, we honor the second class into the Hall. Our goal is to tell the stories of this impressive group of Hall of Famers and to raise the money needed to enable every child in the area to tell his or her story in the future without regard to financial situation. The selection process is exhausting, rigorous, and fair. Anyone can make a nomination for our 4 categories. The nomination committee, the event committee, and the executive committee work tirelessly to ensure the process succeeds. Artifacts, newspaper articles, pictures, plaques, and other memorabilia adorn the walls and trophy cases and bring the past to life in the only one true Hall of Fame in the area. The Hall of Famers, many of whom are world famous, are a living testament to the history of the area and also the foundation upon which future success is built. Thanks to the hundreds of contributors to the Hall and consequently to the kids of the area, a special thanks to Dave and Sue Lombard, Mike and Helen Caulfield, the Figgenbaum Foundation, Hill Engineering, the Berkshire Taconic Foundation, Eric Shepard and Silver Whip Media, the CRA Director Allison Peters, the Board of Governors and the Board of Trustees, and so many others. Without their help and support, this would not have happened. In addition, the Hall of Fame would not exist without the determination and vision of Dustin Belcher, whose hard work and drive brought an idea into successful reality that surprised even some of our greatest supporters. To all the many guests who have visited the Hall of Fame and the CRA in general over the past year, thank you. If you haven't had an opportunity to stop by to see us, please do. We hope you will think it's as special as we do. Thank you.
Thank you to Jim Duquette and an inspiring keynote address. And thank you to Pat West for the tour of the Hall of Fame. Each year, the CRA Athletic Hall of Fame Executive Committee chooses a story of the year as a way to remind us that we're not just here to talk about the stories of the past, but to celebrate athletes of today and to ensure that we can raise the funds necessary to make sure that all athletes in the future have an opportunity to write their story. This past spring, hundreds of athletes at Wacona High School did not have a chance to compete in their respective sports. We wanted to recognize the members of the Wacona class of 2020 who lost their senior spring season, and to honor them for their example of resilience and grit, and also to say thank you for giving us so much to cheer about throughout their high school careers. This is their story.
The CRA Athletic Hall of Fame would like to honor and recognize the Wauconah Class of 2020 spring sport athletes who missed their final season due to the coronavirus. Although there were no games, this group of athletes will be remembered for the way they handled this very difficult situation. On behalf of the community and the CRA Athletic Hall of Fame, we are all very proud of each of you and the way you represented Wauconah High School and our community for 4 years.
At this time, I would like to ask Jackie McLaughlin from our executive committee to induct our contributors and our coaches.
Growing up in such a small community like Dalton or our surrounding hill towns, we were fortunate to have grown up with amazing youth programs. Adults who volunteered their time to coach, even when their own children weren't on the teams. Well-kept athletic fields with the extra bonus of having dugouts, when most fields in the other local towns had none. And gym floors that were resurfaced when they started to wear because of the constant use, just to name a few. As kids, you assume that those things just appear. You don't hear about the stories of people behind the scenes who have dedicated their lives to make this community the family that it is. They are too modest to take credit and do everything they do out of the generosity and kindness of their hearts. Today we are honoring 2 amazing contributors, not only to the CRA, but to the town itself. Dick Cayley, a recipient of the 2nd annual Gib Kittredge Award. Dick began giving to this community as an assistant football coach in 1961. He served in this role for 5 years before becoming the head coach and continued until 1972. He then moved on and served as president of the Dalton Junior Football League until 1975. Baseball overlapped football in 1962 when he became one of the first coaches in the Dalton Babe Ruth League and coached for 3 to 4 years. Ironically, LP Adams, another award winner today, was the team where he started in baseball, and Mike Cooney, also an award winner, was on that team. He returned to coaching baseball when his sons, Mike and Mark, were in Little League and Babe Ruth, respectively. He also coached in the DYC Junior Basketball League for 2 years. In combination with his commitments to coaching, he also served on many local boards, including serving as president of the board of directors of the Benefit Association. A true family man, Dick turned his attention to watching his 4 children play in their own sports as they began to get older. The values that he promoted with all of his players on his teams were instilled in his own children, always encouraging them in their participation in sports, and more importantly, making sure that they find their way to give back to their own communities. You can still find Dick on any sports field in town, as he is one of his grandchildren's biggest fans. Here's his story.
Dick Cayley was instrumental in the growth of Dalton youth sports. He was a coach of youth sports for over 10 years. Dick was a coach, organizer, secretary, and president of the Dalton Babe Ruth Baseball League and Dalton Youth Football. In addition to his contributions as a coach, Dick served as a board member to the CRA, Dalton Youth Center, Wauconah Warriors Booster Club, and Dalton Benefit Association. In 1974, Dick was given the Gib Kittredge Award, which is the highest award given by the CRA to a volunteer.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dick Cayley. Our second contributor today is LP Adams. LP Adams was founded in 1900. Todd and Corey are the seventh generation of the Walton family to be involved. What they have done for Dalton's athletics for more than 50 years is unparalleled. They have sponsored teams. They have donated to many projects in town, which you will hear about. And they have always allowed kids to fundraise at their doors. If you call them because you need help with something in particular, they will do anything to meet your needs. Their contractors donate leftover materials to Restore, a subsidiary of Habitat for Humanity. They donate to the causes of the VFW and the American Legion. And each year, they give 2 scholarships to graduating seniors at Wacona in honor of Harry Walton. They donated the pavilion at the Hinsdale Fire Department, as well as all the flags and holders that line the sides of the streets, beginning at the entrance to Hinsdale and continues all the way into the center of town for every Memorial Day. For the last 6 to 7 months, they have gotten involved in the food pantry at St. Joe. They use their trucks for picking up the food that gets distributed every Tuesday. And as a family, Todd, Melinda, and their 2 children help in that distribution. LP Adams considers themselves a family, and knowing many of them personally, they are a family of incredibly unselfish people who would rather do what they do without anyone knowing. Today, we get the chance to publicly acknowledge and celebrate with them. Here's their story.
LP Adams has been a consistent supporter of Dalton athletics for over 40 years. This business has sponsored youth sports teams in the CRA youth sports programs and the Dalton Babe Ruth Baseball League. In addition to sponsoring teams, they have been a sponsor in many of the Wacona High School programs and the Wacona Warriors Booster Club. As they have in the past, whenever the community is in need of support, LP Adams is there, ready to provide donations. They have supported projects such as the Wacona Football Press Box, Babe Ruth and Little League dugouts and concession stands, CRA concession stands, the DYC Gym Floor Project, the CRA Gym Floor Project, and many more.
Accepting on behalf of Wayne Walton and LPs are Todd and Melinda Walton. Today, we are also honoring 4 coaches. In the dictionary, the word is defined as to train intensively by instruction, demonstration, and practice to direct the movements of a player. We all know that a coach goes well beyond that definition, and here are some thoughts as to what makes someone a good coach. A good coach is patient, committed, knowledgeable, organized, respectful, and a good motivator. They care about their players beyond the scope of the sport, can get a team to believe in and play for something bigger than themselves, and pushes their players to do their best, knowing their full potential. They believe in their players, their team, listen to and learn from them with open and honest communication, making them truly believe that your team is your family. They know when to step up and stand back, believe in you when you don't believe in yourself, and aren't afraid to give you the feedback you need, not necessarily the feedback you want to hear. But they can't do all of this alone. A good coach also has really good assistants and good players that have come from an amazing youth program, something that we all know we have been blessed to have in this community. Thank you to Coach O'Connor, Coach Reardon, Coach Duquette, and Coach Cooney for truly exemplifying all these qualities. Our first introduction. Coach Jim O'Connor. Jim graduated from Hartford High School in Vermont in 1942 and also served with the U.S. Marines in World War II. He was a graduate of Norwich University, where he was named captain of the football team. Before coming to the Berkshires, he taught and coached 3 years at St. Mary's High School in St. Albans, Vermont. Twice during his tenure, their football team won the state Class B title. He came to Dalton High School in 1960 and was named the head football coach at Wauconah Regional in 1961. It didn't take long for him to be named the Berkshire County Coach of the Year in 1966. He retired after the 1972 season after getting the chance to coach 3 of his sons so that he could be able to go watch his son Thomas play at Middlebury College. Jim was also inducted into the Monday Morning Quarterback Club in 2019, the first year that they allowed coaches from Wauconah to be honored. Jim served as the athletic director and vice principal at Wauconah. Obviously, being in these roles, you get to interact with many of the students at school, not just the football players. Just last year, a female athlete who graduated from Wauconah almost 50 years ago spoke fondly to Jim's daughter, Diane, about how he influenced her to step aside and look at the path that she was headed towards. He spoke to her about making better decisions, and she remarked how this conversation with him changed her life forever. He helped to serve as a life coach, not only to his football players, but to all the students that he met. Here's his story.
Jim O'Connor came to Dalton High School in 1960 and was named head football coach at Wauconah Regional High School in 1961. In addition, he served as the athletic director and vice principal. Coach O'Connor treated the football as an extension of the classroom. The Berkshire Eagle quoted him as saying, "I get a lot of satisfaction out of working with the students in the classroom, but it is no comparison to the satisfaction I get from coaching." During the 12 seasons he served as head coach, Coach O'Connor's Warriors compiled a record of 66 wins and 30 losses. His teams won the Class A title 5 times. And in his final season in 1972, his team was a perfect 8-0. In 1966, Coach O'Connor was named the WBEC Sports Caravan Coach of the Year.
Please welcome his son, Chris, to accept the award on his behalf. Coach Fran Reardon. A longtime teacher and coach at Wauconah Regional High School, he coached in the basketball program for 24 years. Overlapped that with coaching in the baseball program for 25 years, and ended his career in the golf program for 2 years. To say in which of these sports he was most successful would be debatable for sure. The successes that he had are remarkable, and you will hear about this in his video. The one thing that was consistent was his love for not only the sport that he was coaching, but for the kids that he was coaching. He pushed his players, made them fundamentally sound, and his practices were fun, active, and efficient, which some coaches don't know how to do. He was intense, and we all know he was surely animated. He knew how to inspire and was great at giving pep talks to his teams. One of his favorites was, "We never, ever lose to St. Joe." His players loved playing for him. My brother Jim said that his freshman year of basketball, they blew out every JV team in the county by at least 15 to 20 points. It was a joke how good we were, he said. Steve Messina, a baseball coach at Mount Greylock, coached against Franny and says his teams were always tough, well coached and disciplined. I learned a lot from Franny. A former player and current principal at Wauconah, Aaron Robb, told me, "If he has faith in someone, he will find a way to make sure that you know it." His story.
Fran Reardon coached baseball, basketball, and golf at Wauconah High School, serving as both the freshman and JV basketball coach from 1968 to 1992. He had 5 undefeated seasons and a 56-game win streak in the middle of his career. The MBCA named Coach Reardon the Assistant Coach of the Year. On the baseball field, he coached from 1978 to 1995. including 14 seasons as the head coach of the varsity baseball team. He had over 200 victories, including a perfect regular season in 1993 with a record of 20-0. His teams won the Western Mass titles in 1986 and 1991 and reached the state finals in 1986. Coach Reardon was inducted into the Massachusetts Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 1999 and the New England Basketball Hall of Fame in 2019.
Please welcome Coach Fran Reardon. Coach Jim Duquette, a graduate of St. Joseph High School in Pittsfield and Fairfield University, my dad was a violin player and a baseball player who really had no credentials as a basketball player. When he first applied for the freshman boys basketball coach at Wauconah, his only experience was playing pickup basketball at the youth center and the CRA, but he brought his passion and his love for the game. He got that coaching job in 1972. His players became part of our family. I remember as I got older, his players would come to the house for dinner, to watch games on TV, or just to hang out. Just what I wanted. At the time, I had already had 3 brothers at home to contend with, never mind bringing 12 more in on any given day. When he began coaching the girls' team in 1977, I was in my glory. Now all of those girls became a part of my family as well. 12 sisters. It was definitely different for a man to coach in a woman's sport, but thanks to Mike Cooney, who started it, my dad took on the challenge with a team who only won 2 to 3 games the previous year. In a 1979 Dalton News Record article, he was quoted as saying, "Trouble is, no book tells you how different it's going to be, coaching girls. I had a lot of reservations and frustrations about forcing girls to be aggressive and competitive, to play fiercely." His assistant, Nancy Berry, suggested that he was thinking too much. He could teach that, and he did teach that. So well, in fact, that the very next year, with the help of a Dalton referee named Fuad Nassif, they won the first Western Mass title in girls basketball for Wauconah. He gave up coaching in 1980 so that he could focus on being with his family and supporting them in their athletic journeys. Here's his story.
Jim Duquette was a longtime educator and coach at Wauconah Regional High School. He served as the head coach of the Wauconah boys freshman basketball team. In 1975, he helped lead the Wauconah boys basketball team to a state final appearance. He also served as the head coach of the Wauconah girls varsity basketball team. From 1978 to 1981, his teams won 50 games and brought home the first Western Mass title in girls basketball in 1979. His 1980 team won the Northern Berkshire title and the Berkshire County Championship. Each year, dozens of high school basketball players play in the Dalton CRA Jim Duquette Basketball League. This league serves as a reminder of Coach Duquette's love for game and kids in our community.
Please welcome my mom, Mary Jane, and my brother Brian to accept the award on his behalf. Coach Mike Cooney, a nominee for the Massachusetts Girls Softball Association's Hall of Fame, was not only the pioneer for women's softball at Wauconah, but was also the first male coach for a women's athletic team at the school. After coaching for only 2 to 3 weeks, the school committee actually denied him the right to coach, concerned of a male coaching female athletes. Well, the girls had already formed such a positive relationship with him that they started a petition on their own to reinstate him. Fortunately, the school committee listened. Thanks, Mike, for staying the course and paving the way for other male coaches to follow, and for persistently fighting for equal rights for the girls. His spirit, energy, and enthusiasm made his teams some of the premier teams in all of Berkshire County. In fact, they won the county championship every year for the first 3 years of the league's existence. Mike's 100th win came after 10 years into his coaching career, and his 200th win came only 6 years later. His 1983 team became the first Berkshire County team to ever win a Western Mass title in softball. I remember growing up and watching his teams play at Pine Grove Park. He would calmly coach from the opening of the gate leading to the field as this team batted, giving his signals as needed, rarely raising his voice, unlike the current softball coach who calmly coaches from third base. Mike gave up coaching in 1992, but can still be seen on the sidelines, always supporting the Lady Warriors. It would be remiss of me if I did not mention his longtime good friend and assistant, Boog Powell, who coached with Mike for 15 years. He helped to encourage and develop players at the youth and JV level in a way that supported Mike's coaching philosophies. Here's his story.
Mike Cooney served as the original softball coach at Wauconah Regional High School. He led the program for 18 seasons from 1975 to 1992. During his time as head coach, he captured 6 league titles, including the first 3 of the Berkshire County Softball League and 2 Western Mass Championships in 1983 and 87. In 1987, he led his team to an appearance in the state finals. He was always quick to share his success with his longtime friend and assistant coach, Boog Powell. Mike finished his coaching career with 245 wins, making him the winningest softball coach in Berkshire County history.
Please welcome Coach Mike Cooney.
Thank you, Jackie, and congratulations to our coaches and contributors that were inducted today. Over a year ago, we had a vision of what the Hall of Fame would look like, but without the financial support of our sponsors, it never would have became a reality. Today, I'd like to take an opportunity to recognize those sponsors. The vision of the Hall of Fame committee was to create a physical room that would tell the story to the community, but also to hold an event each year that would bring people together to share and expand upon the stories that we've learned along the way. In order to accomplish this, we had to raise a significant amount of money, and it started with a donation and the support of David and Susan Lombard, as well as the W. Murray Crane trustees to get us started. Joining them as founding level sponsors were Helen and Michael Caulfield, Chris and Kim Matthews, the Feigenbaum Foundation, Hill Engineers, Architects, and Planners, Silverwhip Media, and Wauconah Country Club. Joining these major sponsors this year were the Berkshire Taconic Foundation, Berkshire Bank, John Quirk and Family, and Dan Duquette. In addition to these major sponsors, we had over 70 other sponsors who have supported the Hall of Fame. On behalf of the Hall of Fame committee and the community, we thank you for your continued support. Coach Gary Campbell Jr. will be inducting our 1992-1993 Wauconah boys basketball team.
It's an absolute distinct honor to be here today, and it's an honor to be a part of what I call this corny cool thing, what we are doing here in Dalton. It's long overdue. And it's what I mean by that is just seeing all the stories, and you guys have walked through this today, and you will continue to walk through this. This is the story of Dalton. This is the story of Wauconah. This is the story of Central Berkshire. And you can't write the story without this team we're inducting today. The 92-93 boys basketball team. Coach already mentioned the best record in Wauconah's history, 22-3. And I would say overall, and being a part of a little bit of that history, is probably the glory years of basketball here in town. Before them, the Poop Wars, Now I have in front of me Brian McGovern, MVP. After that, and a part of this team, Jeremy Lamb, and those guys, again, continuing. Probably the best that we had here in Dalton. And when you say that, you got to think about upstairs and think about Coach Ladley. Coach Ladley, I know you're looking down on us today, and I know you're looking down on your team today. And we're inducting you too, and see Rose. And we see so many memories that flash before our eyes in little basketball camp in that gym. In those gyms, hot, sweaty days in the winter down there at Wacona, Saturday mornings busting our butt. But what I see with this 92-93 team is chemistry, toughness. Not the biggest people in the world. I have in front of me right now the front court of Jimbo and Duke, Lammer, Noli, Aguera, all the guys in front here, Brian. By the way, the teams we went against, Greenfield, we beat them in the Western Mass Championship. Front line, 6'9", 6'5", 6'4". Not us, but who walked out of there the victors. That was our call. That was our deal. It was Wacona. It was toughness. It was chemistry. It was bonding together. It was fighting with each other in the driveways. It was coming together in the school. It was on other fields, on the baseball fields, football fields, soccer fields, and everywhere in between that we fought together. But when I think of this team, and I watched from afar, graduating much after, I think of the three-pointers that were from nowhere, out of bounds, craziness. I think about the average wins by 20 or more. I think about the teams we beat, that the talent that they had, but they didn't have our toughness or our chemistry. I think about the experience that they had from people before them and who you taught later and people that continued to play this game. I think about the cars leaving town and going to the Springfield Civic Center. I don't even know what it's called anymore, but Civic Center, and going down there, and the Whitmans, and people piling in the van, and people going all the way down and getting after it for the Wacona Blue. I see Coach Zink, Coach O'Connor, Coach Ladley. I think about everybody involved. It is a town thing. It's a corny, cool thing. So when I think about today, and I think about the 92-93 boys basketball team, and I think about Brendan Farrell, and Jamie Walton, Eric Campbell, Brian Ronayne, Jeremy Lamb, the guys here, Jimbo White, Mark DuPont, Brian Duquette, Josh Bean, John Higuera, Chris Knoll, Brian McGovern, coaches O'Connor, Zink, and Ladley. I think about true excellence. I can't think of a better team to represent us. You guys were tough, you were undermanned, but you were talented, and you were better, and you showed it every single night. Probably, definitely, it's hard for me to say this, best team that walked through these doors. Did a hell of a job. The 92-93 team, this is your story.
The 1992-93 Wacona boys basketball team, led by CRA Hall of Fame coach Ed Ladley and his staff of Chris O'Connor and Bill Zink, finished the regular season with a record of 18-2, including capturing the Berkshire County Championship with a 56-39 win over Lenox High School. After victories over Drury and Palmer, the sharpshooting Wacona Warriors knocked off the #1 seed in the Western Mass Tournament, Greenfield, by a score of 66-54, bringing home the Western Mass title. The Warriors would reach the state championship game after defeating Uxbridge High School by 20 points in the state semifinals. The 1992-93 Wacona boys basketball team finished the season with a record of 22 wins and 3 losses, and still holds the best record in the school's history. Josh Bean, Eric Campbell, Mark DuPont, Brian Duquette, Brendan Farrell, John Higuera, Jeremy Lamb, Brian McGovern, Chris Knoll, Brian Ronayne, Jamie Walton, Jimbo White. Head coach Ed Ladley. Assistant coaches Chris O'Connor and Bill Zink. Manager George O'Leary.
Congratulations to the 92-93 basketball team being inducted to the CRA Hall of Fame.
At this time, I'd like to ask Joanne Dowling from our executive committee to induct the 1996 Wauconah girls soccer team.
The headline in the Berkshire Eagle for the preview of the upcoming season on September 4th, 1996, read like this: "Once again, the Warriors are the target." The article went on further to say that the team would be led by senior captains Katie West and Christy Higuera, and that for the first time in 10 years, they would return to play in Division II after being placed in Division I following that 1986 state championship team inductees into last year's inaugural Hall of Fame class. Coach Boog Powell, another inductee into last year's Hall of Fame, was also quoted in the article as saying, "We've got some experienced kids, and some of them have been varsity starters for 3 years now. So I expect us to be tough." Can't you all just hear Boog saying that? Two of the other coaches were girl dads before there was a hashtag for that title. Coach Jim West and Tim Bevan raised 5 girls between them. They might have had a little help from their wives, but as far as being girl dads and coaches, they were 2 of the best. Coach Nick Cavallari was remembered fondly by one of the members who's not here today, but remembered him fondly in the response to the Hall of Fame committee when she wrote, "In particular, our strength and conditioning coach, Nick Cavallari, helped me to rehab after breaking my leg during the next season. And that was the catalyst for my entire future career." We never know the impact that coaches have until many years later. Another member of the team wrote to the committee, and I will quote her, "I was just a freshman in 1996 and was amazed and honored when Boog invited me to travel with the varsity team. Even though I knew I wouldn't play, I felt very special just to be there and be included. And I watched in awe and cheered with those amazing players as they played, and I looked up to them thinking, that might be me someday." Fast forward to November 16th that same year, and the headline in the Eagle read, "Can the 96 Warriors match the 86 Warriors?" The answer would come later that day after an epic 110 minutes of soccer. This team had a record of 16-2-3, but this doesn't tell the whole story, as records rarely do. Although Abby West, and another CRA Hall of Famer, led the team with 15 goals and 6 assists during the regular season, defense was the hallmark of this team. After giving up 5 goals in the season opener and a loss to West Springfield, this team won 7 straight without giving up a goal. And during that run, they beat rivals Pittsfield and Mount Greylock, both by a score of 3-0. Later in the season, the team lost its only other game to Agawam by a score of 2-1. And then the team went on another streak, posting 6 straight shutouts. They were undefeated in league play, won the Northern Berkshire Championship, defeating Greylock by another shutout, 2-0. And later on that same day, the Wauconah boys team won the Northern Berkshire title, also defeating Greylock, 3-0. Tough day for Mount Greylock that day. During the season, the boys and girls team totaled 24 shutouts. The team was the top seed in the Western Mass tournament, and their first game was against Northampton. And it was 26 seconds left in regulation that this shutout streak ended at 684 minutes and 20 seconds. Although Wauconah dominated the extra period of play, it looked like the game might be extended again, and with little time remaining, Anna Renderer broke past the Northampton defense and was hit by a hard slide tackle. A penalty kick was called. Katie West was the designated penalty kick specialist, and she drove the ball hard into the upper right-hand corner. That goalie never had a chance. Katie was later quoted as saying, quote, "I practiced every chance I got with Joyce in goal, and she's the best goalie in the league. You can't get any better practice than that." We'll visit practice again later as well. The Western Mass final game did not disappoint either. Fans were treated to 2 10-minute overtime periods, and it was with 2 minutes left in the first overtime that Katie West reached the back of the goal, and the defensive-minded Warriors went on to win with another shutout, 1-0 over East Longmeadow. During the state semifinal games, this team had to face a new challenge. They had to come from behind 3 times to cap off a 4-3 win over Shepherd Hill. The state finals game what took us to WPI for the first time playing on turf field. True to the tough mindset, Coach Powell took the team to the parking lot at Wauconah for practice, to practice on a hard surface, probably a little harder than the turf field. During the game against Wellesley, both teams scored in the first half, but they couldn't break through in the second half, and the game ended in a tie. They played 2 additional 10-minute periods where neither team scored, and then 2 additional 5-minute sudden death periods, but neither team could break through. After 110 minutes of play, both teams were declared state champions. Coach Powell was again quoted after the game saying, "It's a weird emotion. You don't know whether to be happy or sad or laugh or cry. They're caught in between. Today we are not caught, we are happy." 5 players from this team made the All-Berkshire squad and 3 others the Northern Berkshire All-Star team, and 4 players were part of the All-Western Mass team. Several players went on to play soccer at the next level, and many have coached youth sports at various levels. And in case we should forget, there is a dual purpose to the Hall of Fame. One is to honor you and other outstanding contributors, teams, athletes, and coaches. But the other purpose is to raise funds so that young people in our community can participate, no matter their financial situation. With this in mind, I think it's important for me to share one more response from a player from this championship team that they sent to the Hall of Fame committee. And I will quote her. "I would like to share a special thank you to the Dalton CRA, the community, and in particular, Boog Powell and Dan McMahon for giving me the chance and opportunity to play sports as a young girl. My family never had the means to pay for sports, but scholarships and the generosity of those mentioned made it possible for me to participate and to thrive." Lastly, I would like to share with you a conversation I recently had with Kelly Furlong. She's now Miss Flynn teaching at Nessicus Middle School. She spoke about how it is to talk to her young teams that she's coaching, and she remembers how competitive these teams were in high school. She went on to tell me how she tells her players that it was at practice that they were most competitive, that you would enter the locker rooms after practice, grass-stained, muddy, and sometimes even bleeding, that you respected each other. You respected your team and your coaches. You were your own toughest competition. Coach Powell would be proud, and he was right. You're one tough team. Here's your story.
The 1996 Wauconah girls soccer team was led by CRA Hall of Fame coach Boog Powell and his staff of Jim West, Tim Bevan, and Nick Cavallari. The Warriors were undefeated in league play and won both the Northern Division and Berkshire County championships. During the tournament, you saw the heart and determination of this team. In the Western Mass semifinals, they beat Northampton 2-1 in overtime and then beat East Longmeadow 1-0 in overtime to claim the Western Mass championship. They earned a trip to the state title game with a victory over Shepherd Hill. In the state final, after 110 minutes of soccer, the score was tied 1-1 and both teams were crowned state champions. The 1996 Wauconah Warriors girls soccer team finished the season with a record of 16 wins, 2 losses, and 3 ties.
It is my great honor to induct the 1996 girls soccer team from Wauconah Regional High School into the CRA Hall of Fame.
Megan Alessio, Ashley Barden, Joyce Blake, June Blake, Bethany Campbell, Ashley Connolly, Kristen Demery, Kayla Drosine, Maeve Farrell, Kelly Furlong, Elizabeth Gagnon, Stacy Harrington, Captain Christy Higuera, Becky Hogue, Lindsay Hogue, Jesse Kovacs, Becky LeBeau, Christine LeBeau, Kim Lawrence, Marissa Matty, Kelly McCarty, Courtney Mulcahy, Alicia Myers, Lee Newman, Becky O'Leary, Heidi Perro, Anna Renderer, Allison Lohr, Becky Singer, Jackie Smeagol, Abby West, Captain Katie West, Coach Robert Boog Powell, and assistant coaches Tim Bevan, Nick Cavalieri, and Jim West.
Pat West will be inducting our athletes for the class of 2020.
I have a hard time believing, after I've done some research here and from what I knew before, that this group of people, plus the others who aren't here, actually were at one time students and athletes at Wauconah Regional or Dalton High School. It's just shocking how good they were. And I know we're going to have that for a few years, but my goodness, when you look at the stats, you just can't believe it. And you can talk about that with some of the baseball players and I don't know, basketball players, and you have a sense of how good they are. But when you have seen them play and you know the value they were to the team, and when you see the records that so many individual sports stars, the world racing and world championships, national records, it's just stunning. But let's begin. Everett Calkins. Everett Calkins was known mostly as a baseball player, but he was truly an all-around athlete. He was gifted in so many areas. He won at golf well into his old age. And the guys at Wauconah told me he shot a 66 when he was in his 70s. That I can do that maybe for 9 holes. He even won many bowling tournaments. We're digging this up in the records that we have here. His name just kept popping up. He was a star basketball player. He was a starter on the varsity when he was a freshman. When I asked some of the people over 85 years old around town who was the best athlete of the 40s, Everett Calkins' name came up over and over again. Baseball was his true sport, though. His Dalton High team went to the state baseball finals by winning Berkshire County, then beating a huge Cathedral High School to win Western Massachusetts. Don Cormier, who lived then, lives now, my brother-in-law, grew up with Everett Calkins as his hero and vividly can recall the game in Fenway Park in 1943 where there was a play at the plate involving, we were told, Everett Calkins, but we're not sure. We need some verification on that. It was in Fenway Park, 1943. Everett or one of the players slid in the home. Now, Dalton High School, fewer than 40 seniors. They were playing a much larger Norwood High School for the state championship, and the person sliding in scored the winning run, except the umpire called him out. And how do you know he wasn't out 75, 78 years later? Because the ball in the picture is still lying on the ground, and the Dalton coach is pointing at it, and that would have been the score that would have won the state championship. However, they went on to lose 3-2. Dalton gained a measure of revenge later on when the Dalton Legion team, starring Everett Calkins, beat Brockton in the playoffs for the state championship. That was his junior year. Everett Calkins wasn't done with heroics after his junior year, though. In 1944, his senior year, he was the key player on the Dalton High team that won the Northern Division of Berkshire County with a 4-3 win over Pittsfield High. Remember that Pittsfield High was literally 10 times bigger than Wauconah, or Dalton High School at the time, in just 3 grades, sophomore, junior, senior. He started on the Legion team that beat a very strong Pittsfield team in July 1944, 6-2 to win the state championship. In the Legion state semifinal, he played at Pine Grove Park before over 2,000 people, largely because Everett Calkins was playing. Later on in life, he played at Pine Grove Park in front of 10,000 people, and Larry Moore has a picture of that over at the stationery. He signed with and played professionally with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and after high school, he went on to star in adult leagues well into the 1950s. And now here is Everett Calkins' story.
Everett Calkins was a standout athlete at Dalton High School. He lettered in football, basketball, and baseball. Everett was a 4-year varsity starter in basketball. He helped lead the 1949 American Legion basketball team to a Berkshire County title. In 1943 and 44, he helped to secure the Berkshire County Championship in baseball for Dalton High School. He was a member of the 1943 Massachusetts State Finalist team that played at Fenway Park. In American Legion baseball, his teams won the Berkshire County Championship and were Western Massachusetts finalists in 1944. He received all league honors in both baseball and basketball throughout his career. In 1946, Calkins signed a Class C contract with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Accepting for Everett is Les Calkins. Phil Lennon. Phil Lennon was still a great athlete well into his 60s. While he was playing in the student faculty softball games, he made plays that those of us who weren't half his age look terrible. He was just an amazing softball player. He played fast pitch and then slow pitch softball until well into his 50s and was still one of the best players on the field. There's no question he was a great three-sport athlete in football, basketball, and baseball, and he was all Berkshire in both football and baseball and captain in both. But there is also no question that baseball was the sport that rose above the rest. Signing with the Philadelphia Phillies in 1950, 70 years ago, is a feat that his family can still take great pride in. In 1950, he and a very talented group of Dalton SO players went to Dayton for the national tournament where they made it to the finals. They came back to a hero's welcome in town, and you can see the picture in the Hall of Fame. They had a major reception, and the town businesses brought them jackets that some of the players still have. There's a great picture that I'm betting Larry Moore has over at the stationery as well, but we have a better one here, of them getting off the bus and being presented the jackets. When his professional career ended, he gave back in a big way. He coached young kids in Little League, and then he coached the older kids in Legion Ball. He also offered his expertise to young kids when he was a phys ed teacher at Dalton High School and at Nessicus. He even went into administration at Nessicus as the vice principal, and he was a mentor there. He and Franny Morowski shared their love of nature by starting the outdoor club. The many kids at Nessicus that he helped still speak very highly of him today. And now, here is Phil Lennon's story.
Phil Lennon lettered in football, basketball, and baseball at Dalton High School. In his senior year, he served as captain to the Dalton High School football and baseball teams and was given all Berkshire honors in both football and baseball. In 1950, Lennon played for the Dalton SO baseball team, which reached the national championship game in Dayton, Ohio. Later that same year, he signed a Major League Baseball contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. After college, he served as a physical education teacher and administrator in the Central Berkshire Regional School District. His passion for sports continued as he coached in the Dalton Hinsdale Little League and Dalton American Legion baseball team for many years. In 2017, Phil Lennon was inducted into the New England Baseball Hall of Fame.
Accepting for Phil Lennon is Jim Lennon. Craig Crozier. Craig is one of the 4 inductees whom I knew was a great athlete, but I had no idea how much he had an impact on the Berkshire sports world. In the video, you'll hear about Craig being a captain and the letters he earned, but that doesn't scratch the surface. He not only was the amazing athlete we know about, being named to the All-Berkshire teams in basketball and baseball, and at a time when there weren't 10 guys on the All-Berkshire team or 18 guys on the All Berkshire baseball team, there were 5 or possibly 6. Same with baseball. He won all tournament honors in basketball. In short, he was the best of the best at every sport in which he was involved. But that was only the beginning for Craig. He was not the kind of guy who wanted to live on his glory years forever. Immediately after high school, he began to give back, while still maintaining his all-star athlete prowess in the Berkshire County Semi-Pro Basketball League, by mentoring young people in Dalton and later in Pittsfield, and as coach in football, baseball, and basketball in Dalton for over 45 years. He was the kind of coach that every kid should have. As the director of the DYC, then the Boys Club, he went above and beyond in every aspect. He kept the DYC open past 9 o'clock to allow Jeff Reardon to have more time to pitch to Cutter Gallagher. By the way, Cutter must have been a good player himself to catch Jeff Reardon. The tributes poured in from Dan Duquette, Jeff Reardon, Kathleen Burke, Jeff Farrell, and many others, attesting to the hours and hours that Craig gave year after year to improve the lives of the kids in the Central Berkshire. The truth is, he could probably have made it in 3 categories: the coaching, the contributor, and as obviously the athlete. And with the numbers of things that he did, and as often as they did them, he could probably go in as a team as well. Exactly the kind of man we want to honor in this Hall of Fame. His wife Sandy and his kids, Keith, Karen, and Kevin, and his grandkids clearly are extremely proud of him. His list of awards and recognitions just doesn't end. To name just a few that you won't see in the video, he was an inductee into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. He was All Berkshire in basketball in 1962. Named to the Berkshire County Semi-Pro League All-Star Team 5 years in a row, from 1964 to 1968. Started girls' sports and other programs in Dalton. Helped form the Wacona Booster Club, the Big Booster Club. Still giving back as a long-term trustee for the CRA. And now, here is Craig Crozier's story.
An outstanding athlete, Craig Crozier lettered in football, basketball, and baseball as a student at Dalton High School and Wacona Regional High School. In 1962, Crozier was named the captain of the Wacona basketball team and received all Berkshire honors that season. From 1964 to 68, he played in the Berkshire County Semi-Pro Basketball League, where he scored 52 points in a single game. For 3 seasons, Crozier was a member of the Wacona varsity baseball team and was an All-Berkshire selection in 1962. His passion for sports became his life's work, and he served as the director of the Dalton Youth Center from 1968 to 1974, where he was instrumental in developing many youth sports programs in our town. In 2019, he was inducted into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame.
Craig Crozier. Mark Pupor was another athlete I knew who was one of the best in the county, but I didn't know until the last 2 weeks just exactly how good he was. Mark's scrapbook is filled with interesting details. In 1962, Mark made the All-Berkshire basketball team with only 5 other players. And again, note that it was difficult to make the team because so few were on it, and they were all great players. On the team was Mark Bellinger, Paul Procopio, Paul Taliaferro, all great players. The article from the 1963 team lists 6 players as well, and they were all quality athletes. One article said, "As Pupor goes, so go the Warriors." There was a great picture of Mark giving his 1,000-point ball to his mother. There was an article in the paper about Mark being lost to football for the remainder of his junior year because he broke a bone in his wrist. Only the really good players have an article about an injury. He won the Brisson Murray Award for the best scholar athlete his senior year, one of many great awards for Mark. He made the Boston College basketball team with over 100 quality athletes trying out. Roger O'Gara, longtime sports columnist for the Eagle, was very impressed with Mark Pupor, writing many glowing tributes to him that cover all the sports that he played. He was selected to be the pitcher for the first game that was ever played at the new Wacona Regional High School. At least it was new in 1962. That was quite a team with Craig and Mark on it. His football, baseball, and basketball awards while in high school were special to Mark, as were his awards for being an amazing athlete at Boston College. Going to the New England Basketball Hall of Fame was special. It was important to him. It was the kind of thing that won him the Father Hesburgh Award, given to the most outstanding Berkshire County student athlete. With all the awards, trophies, citations, and all league honors that were gratifying to him, his most important and satisfying moment was when his son Keith scored his 1,000th point, making them the only father-son duo from the same school in Berkshire County. I have a folder about 20 pages long on Mark's athletic achievements, but they weren't his proudest moments. In short, it was never about Mark. His family was far and away more important. And now, here is Mark Pupor's story.
Mark Pupor lettered in football, basketball, and baseball as a student at Dalton High School and Wacona Regional High School. He was a standout baseball player who earned all Berkshire honors in both 1962 and 63. As the captain of the Wacona basketball team in 1963, he became the first player to score 1,000 career points, earning him all Berkshire first team honors and a selection to the small school all-tournament team. He earned the Father Hesburgh Award as Berkshire County's top student athlete. After high school, he attended Boston College, where he played both basketball and baseball. In 2015, Mark was inducted into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. Mark's proudest moment in athletics came on February 2nd, 1992, when his son Keith scored his 1,000th point, making them the only father-son to both score 1,000 points for the same school in Berkshire County history.
Accepting for Mark is a quality athlete himself, Brian Pupor. Gino Quirk. Because Gino Quirk was so good in baseball, he was not generally known as a basketball player, but he was one of the great ones for 3 years on the Wacona varsity, but especially in Wacona's Western Mass win over St. Joe at the Boys Club in Pittsfield in an extremely hard-fought game. He played with great players like Brian Pupor, Glenn Campbell, Dave Mixer, and others. On this very talented team, he was captain and he was named the MVP of the tournament. He was also named the varsity MVP for the 1970 team. He was inducted into the New England Basketball Hall of Fame in 2019. But still in all, he was known for his baseball prowess. Gino and I played on the baseball team, on the same baseball team in 1968 at Wacona. He was a sophomore and I was a junior. He was a superb all-around player even then. We both had important roles. My job was to coach first base and to wave him through because he was good. If you wonder what kind of a baseball player he was, think of Rod Carew or Tony Oliva as a hitter and Mark Bellinger as a fielder. Or Derek Jeter, just all the way around. Not only was he one of the smoothest players anyone in this area has ever seen, he was also one of the classiest. He was smart, talented, and modest. So modest, in fact, that I had to get much of this information from other people. You would never know what kind of a player he was simply by talking to him, because he would never talk about himself. But he was one of the best players ever from a high school that was known for great baseball players. You wouldn't know, for example, that he was named to the Topps All-American High School District 1 All-Star team, or that he was a Dalton Collegians All-Star, or that he was the MVP for the Cape Cod League champions Catuit Kettlers, or that he was drafted by Cincinnati in the 7th round. But you know now. Gino Quirk's stats and honors don't do justice to how good he was for a very long time. And now, here is Gino Quirk's story.
Gino Quirk lettered in basketball and baseball at Wacona. In 1970, as captain of the basketball team, he helped to lead them to the Western Mass Class S championship and was named tournament MVP. On the baseball field, Gino was a member of the 1969 and 70 Wacona baseball teams that both won the Berkshire County Championship. Quirk was a captain of the baseball team in 1970 and was first team All-Berkshire and All-Western Mass. After high school, he attended Union College, where he played basketball for 1 season and baseball for 4 seasons. Quirk was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds in 1970. He signed with the New York Mets in 1974 and played in the minors for 5 seasons. He was inducted into the New England Baseball Hall of Fame in 2017 and the New England Basketball Hall of Fame in 2019.
Gino couldn't be with us today, and accepting for Gino is the Executive Committee. Richie Zink. Richie Zink was named one of the 50 best athletes at not just Waukegan, but in all of Berkshire County by the Berkshire Eagle. His statistics bear this out. Boys are lucky to end up with 6 letters while in high school. Richie ended up with 11. He set so many records and led his teams in so many categories, they all cannot be included in a short introduction. I have tried to hit the highlights, but please know that Richie Zink set many, many other records as well. In football, the sport he is best known for, his records and accomplishments still stand after almost 50 years. He's the career all-time leading scorer in Berkshire County. He led Berkshire County in scoring for his sophomore, junior, and senior years. He was the first sophomore in Western Mass to break the 100-point scoring record and was named Sophomore of the Year by the Springfield Republican. He was Player of the Year his junior year and leading scorer with 132 points. He scored 134 points his senior year and set the record for Western Mass scoring with 376 total points in high school. All Berkshire in 70, 71, and 72. Named to the Scholastic All-American Football Team Honorable Mention in 71 and 72. His teams were 29, 3-1 over his 4 years. He gained over 3,000 yards during his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. He scored 6 touchdowns in 1 game. I'm exhausted. He scored in every game but one in 70, 71, and 72. This was all with opposing defenses keying on him. They knew he was going to get the ball and they couldn't do anything about it. And this is just football. It's important to note that he was a superstar baseball player and basketball player as well. In baseball, he was all Berkshire 3 straight years, 27-game hitting streak, batting .380. He went on to star at Deerfield Academy and at Central Connecticut State College, where he set many records and led his teams in stats in both football and baseball. His Deerfield coach at the time is quoted as saying that Richie was the best I've ever seen. And now here is Richie Zink's story.
Richie Zink lettered in football, basketball, and baseball at Waukegan. He led Berkshire County in scoring as a sophomore, junior, and senior, and set the Western Mass interscholastic scoring record. In 1970, he was named Sophomore of the Year, and in 1971, he was named Player of the Year for football. He made all Berkshire first team his sophomore, junior, and senior years in both football and baseball. Zink received all Western Mass Class L honors as a junior and senior in football and as a senior in baseball. In 1973, he was named WBEC Sports Caravan Athlete of the Year. He went to Central Connecticut State University, where he played football and baseball. He holds 4 kickoff return records at Central Connecticut and was named to the Division II All-New England team in baseball in 1977.
Accepting for Richie Zink is Ashley Zink, one of the best defensive soccer players who ever lived. Mary Ann Lombardi. While Mary Ann has a hard time taking compliments and continues to work on this as a life's goal, she needs to buckle up for the next couple of minutes. She was a shockingly good athlete before high school, in high school, and in college. She could easily make claim to be the best female athlete of the 1970s, and I don't think it would be just a claim. If you had seen her, she was truly amazing. A great athlete, but she was an even better person. She was a superstar in every aspect of every season, Note on the video that she played on the UMass soccer team when UMass and North Carolina were the best in the country. She was a 4-year high school varsity player in soccer, basketball, and softball teams. She was the leading scorer on a basketball team that won Western Mass. As you'll see in the video, she won every major award and honor that was available to win. What you won't see in the video, and also what a good person and leader she won the Sportsmanship Award for soccer and softball her senior year. She also was the president of the National Honor Society. She won a Good Citizenship Award from the DAR and is one of the class's graduation speakers. She was a recognized leader by her peers, having been named a captain 5 times in 3 sports. Can you think of anyone else who's had that distinction? It's very rare, and that's at a time when there was generally one captain. What you won't see in the video is that she was named to the high school All-American team in 1977. However, despite her amazing skills, the best play I ever saw her make was in a fundraising game at the Legion. You would think players wouldn't go all out in that type of a game. It was a catch she made in center field at the Legion in an exhibition game with the world traveling softball team, the Queen in her court. She was playing center field when a screaming line drive was hit to her left, halfway between her and the right fielder. She laid flat out after the ball, caught it, and crashed into the ground while maintaining control of the ball. Ho-hum play for her, but it received a standing ovation from the huge crowd. If it happened today, it would be on ESPN and it would be the play of the day. In the 1970s, many female high school athletes were just starting out. If they had to compete with today's athletes, they'd probably be crushed by kids who, for example, have gone to soccer camp since they were 3 years old. Mary Ann, however, would fit right in with any team at the high school. She was that good. And now Mary Ann Lombardi's story.
Mary Ann Lombardi lettered in soccer, basketball, and softball at Wauconah Regional High School. She was a captain her junior and senior year in basketball and softball, and her senior year in soccer. Mary Ann was selected for the All-Berkshire team in soccer in 1977 and 78, and received the Sportsmanship Award in 1978. Her contributions on the basketball court helped her to lead her team on the magical run of a Western Mass Championship in 1979. She was named to the All-Berkshire and the Berkshire Eagle All-Star teams. In softball, Mary Ann was named the Berkshire County MVP in 1979, and she won the Berkshire County Umpires Association Award. After high school, she attended UMass, where she played soccer her freshman year and softball for 4 seasons.
Mary Ann Lombardi. Diane Tedford Pierce. I was teaching at Wauconah when Diane Tedford was setting record after record, but I didn't realize how truly great she was until her husband sent us information. Her records, awards, and honors remind me a little of Eric McElwam's in that she started winning early and has maintained her greatness throughout her life in an individual sport. She won the 1983 Berkshire County Individuals Mile Championship, and she set a record 31 years later in a Masters track event at the USATF 4x400 American Club in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. At Wake Forest? It was Wake Forest. Some of her highlights. Superstar at Wauconah, 1983 Individuals Mile Champion, All Berkshire, All Western Mass, and All State honors in both cross country and track. Won the CRA road race 5 times. Bryant College, Hall of Fame, multi-record holder for both the cross-country and track teams. She was named the Coaches Alumni of the Year in 1986 by the Western Mass Coaches Association, and she was honored by the Dalton Lions Club at a reception to note the achievement. Post-college, she ran for the Reebok Racing Club under Mike Finelli, placed 3rd in both the San Francisco and Cape Cod marathons, and had even greater success, as you'll see in the video. A sample of the Masters track accomplishments. Placed 3rd in the 400 meters at the World Masters Track Championship in Brazil in 2013. Finished 1st in the women's 45 to 49-year-old age group 400-meter relay at the 2016 World Masters Track Championship in Perth, Australia. In short, and I have to draw a line somewhere because her record in Masters running events all over the world at the highest levels of competition sounds made up, but it's not. Finishing in the top 3 more than 10 times in a variety of events. One of the most remarkable aspects of Diane's running career is the courageous way she approaches competition. Her husband and coach said, quote, "Despite having a full knee replacement 2.5 years ago, she's continued to compete on the track during an arduous rehab process. I know of no one else who has ever done this after a full knee replacement. She's a truly remarkable human being." And now here is Diane Tedford Pierce's story.
Diane Tedford, one of Wauconah High School's most decorated runners, served as a captain of the cross-country and track and field teams, earning all Berkshire, all Western Mass, and all state honors in both sports. She graduated from Wauconah, holding 12 school records. Her success continued while she attended Bryant College. She set several school records and was named to the national team, while becoming the first Bryant College female athlete to be named First Team All-America. After college, Tedford's dominance continued. She set many records in the USA track and field division, including 39 records in the Masters division. In 1994, she won the Ford Buffalo Marathon. Diane Tedford was inducted into the Bryant College Hall of Fame in 2004, Beverly High School Hall of Fame for her coaching efforts in 2004, and the USA Track and Field Hall of Fame in 2008.
Diane Tedford Pierce. Scott Pudlow. Scott was one of the 1987 seniors. That's almost all that needs to be said, because you could make a great case that, collectively, boys and girls, that class might have been the most talented and most successful group of athletes to pass through Wauconah. He played on the varsity team for a rare 4 years. The varsity soccer team, thank you. The baseball team for a rare 3 years, and was part of that great basketball team to win the states in 1987, coming from 19 points down in the final quarter. He was also one of the few to win the Father Ted Hesburgh Award for being an outstanding scholar athlete. He had a day named after him in Hinsdale by the governor of Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis. And he won the LB Yankee Sportsmanship Award in soccer. He was nominated by Brian Damaris, who said that Scott had an incredible athletic career and was one of the best athletes we have ever seen at Wauconah Regional. He was the ace pitcher on a very good Amherst team, playing 4 years. He and Pat Bramer were the 1986 co-MVPs in Berkshire County soccer for a loaded state finalist Wauconah. By the way, that team, I don't know if you know much about that team, had no weaknesses. Frequently as a coach, you have to try to hide a less skillful player on the field. That 1986 team had all Berkshire caliber players sitting on the bench. And Scott was one of the best of the best. He was named to the Berkshire County Chow Soccer Hall of Fame in 2010 in recognition of how strong a player he was. That team had an unbeaten streak of 45 straight games from 1985 to 1987. Even with all the great Wauconah teams, that's an amazing stat. And Scott was instrumental in their success. And now, here is Scott Pudlow's story.
Scott Pudlow lettered in soccer, basketball, and baseball at Wauconah High School. On the soccer field, Scott was a part of winning league titles, Western Mass championships, and helped to lead the 1984 and 1986 teams to the state finals. Scott received all Berkshire, all Western Mass, and all state honors in soccer. In basketball, he was a member of the 1987 Massachusetts State Championship team and was named to the Academic All-State team, earning the Father Hesburgh Award, recognizing him as Berkshire County's top student athlete. In baseball, Scott was a member of the 1986 Western Mass Championship team. While attending Amherst College, he played baseball and was an All-American honorable mention and a member of the New England All-Star team while helping them secure an ECAC title. After college, he was drafted and played in the New York Penn League for the Erie Sailors. Pudlow was inducted into the Berkshire County Soccer Hall of Fame in 2010.
Scott Pudlow. Eric McElwain. Eric's sorry right now. I'm sorry. The only thing harder than spelling Eric McElwain's last name is wrapping your head around the statistics, honors, and awards he's amassed during high school, college, and beyond. You'll see quite a bit in the tribute video, but it's hard to fully grasp how completely he dominated the sport of swimming while in high school and college. In addition, he was an outstanding all-around athlete, leader, and student who made an impression locally, nationally, and internationally. I know you'll see all this in the video, but he was the fastest swimmer in the state. I mean, we have 7 million people living in this state. It's just amazing. After high school and college, he had a long and successful coaching career. Head swimming coach at Alabama, and then at West Virginia. Head Olympic coach for Egypt and Australia. I knew he was a great high school swimmer, but had no idea how successful he was after high school. In his career, he was a 26-time All-American, 15-time national individual champion, 12-time NCAA record holder. He won 15 NCAA D2 individual and relay titles at Oakland University, a 2-time butterfly champion, and at one time the national record holder. He was also on the teams that held the 200 and 400 medley relay and 200 freestyle relay national records. He held the record for the most medals won in the Bay State game. Also smart, he was on the NCAA Academic All-American all 4 years in college. And now, here is Eric McElwain's story.
Eric McElwain was an outstanding athlete for Wauconah Regional High School, where he lettered in football and swim. He was captain of the swim team his junior and senior year, and captain of the football team his senior year. In 1986, he received all Berkshire first team honors and all Western Mass second team honors in football. In 1986, 87, and 88, McElwain received all state honors in swimming. He was named the fastest swimmer in Massachusetts in 1987 and 88, and was a 3-time Massachusetts state champion. He attended Oakland University, where he was captain of the swim team his junior and senior years. He received All-American honors in all 4 years, was a 15-time NCAA champion, and a 12-time NCAA record breaker. In 1997, he was inducted into the Oakland University Hall of Fame.
Eric McElwain. Matt White. Matt White was a 3-sport star athlete from the time he was in 3rd grade. Soccer, basketball, and baseball. He was so good, and this doesn't say a good thing about coaches in this town. He was so good that all the Little League coaches wanted him to throw the tryouts so the other coaches wouldn't draft him. But Mike Cady knew, which is very surprising, by the way, if you know Mike Cady. He was a star for 4 years on a very good soccer team at Wauconah, and during his senior year, he was the key reason they made it to the state finals. He was a deadly striker and scored key goals throughout the season to move them along. He scored a goal at Mount Greylock, where the Greylock coach, Bill Gerard, said that it was the best headball goal that he had ever seen in his life. And that was the game that won the North for Wauconah. You remember that goal? He was also a point guard on the basketball team and was a favorite of Ed's. Not so much because of his ability, which, I mean, he had high standards for ability, and Matt was one of the good ones, but because of the way he hustled, for his guts and his hustle. It was fun watching him play in the major leagues. We went to Yankee Stadium and RFK Stadium to see him. One of the best was RFK Stadium in Washington to see him start against the St. Louis Cardinals, who were loaded at the time, really loaded. Coach is a big St. Louis fan. Matt had a perfect game for half the innings he pitched that game. He played for quite a few teams in professional baseball, including the Red Sox, Seattle, the Indians, Mariners, and the Dodgers. He also pitched for the Yokohama Bay Stars in Japan and for the Magellan Navigators in the Venezuelan Winter League. And by the way, I'm sure you've heard that Venezuela is a dangerous place, and I suppose it is. But the most dangerous thing there are moths. Ask Matt about that. Despite his huge success, he's never changed. He was a great 14-year-old kid, and he is one of the nicest, classiest guys you will ever meet today. We are truly honored to have him and all our inductees in the Hall of Fame. I wish his biggest fan could be here with us today. Now, here's Matt White's story.
Matt White lettered in soccer, basketball, and baseball at Wauconah. An outstanding soccer player, he served as captain of the Wauconah soccer team, where he also was named to the All-Berkshire First Team and helped lead the soccer team to a Western Mass title in 1993. In basketball, Matt helped lead the Warriors to a Berkshire County title in 1994 and was a captain of the team his senior year. Matt had a solid baseball career as well, hoping to lead his teams to postseason berths each year. He served as a baseball captain in 1995. After high school, he attended Clemson University, where he played baseball. In 1998, he was drafted by the Cleveland Indians and played in the minor leagues for 10 years. In 2003, he made his major league debut with the Boston Red Sox. Matt played in the major leagues from 2003 to 2005.
Matt White. Kate Whitcomb. As a student at Nesicus 25 or so years ago, I remember Kate Whitcomb as a strong athlete with a great sense of humor. Who knew she was going to become a force in the world stage in skiing? Even then, though, she was a great skier. I think if she were in 7th grade now, she would have an opportunity to win even more state titles because of the change in the MIAA rules. Kate never lost a Nordic ski race while she was in high school. And as a member of the U.S. World Ski Team, she was among the best in the world at her sport. She was also undefeated Massachusetts state champion, an All-American in college, and a junior national champion, and so much more. Kate is still a great person, the same great person we knew in middle school. She's working hard to give back with a community outreach plan in Ketchum, Idaho. Kate's community service initiative takes place in a 5th grade classroom at Hemingway Elementary School, the town where she lives and trains. As an adoptee of this particular teacher and class of students, Kate's autographed poster hangs on the wall. She visits regularly and talks to the class about health, fitness, and nutrition, among other topics. With a BA in elementary education, Kate adeptly incorporates into the curriculum exercises and games designed to inculcate goal setting and team building, and sends the students postcards from the road when she's traveling to competitions. Kate writes, "I strive to be not only the best athlete, but also an ideal role model." She was definitely a role model when she won the American Birkebeiner Championship. She was the first American to win the Birkie, as they call it, I guess, since 2002. A few months later, she had just moved to Ketchum, Idaho, and walked into a store and was immediately recognized by the clerk as the winner of the race. When asked about the recognition, she responded, "It makes you feel like a rock star. It made my year. It's these kinds of things that bring you back to the moment you won the race. You feel so honored that someone cares, and that's all the motivation you need to keep going out there and work hard." Well, Kate, we care, and that's why you're now in the Hall of Fame. And here is Kate Whitcomb's story.
Kate Whitcomb was an outstanding cross-country skier at Wauconah Regional High School. Kate was undefeated as a skier and was the Massachusetts state champion. After high school, she skied for 4 years at Middlebury College, where she was named NCAA All-American and NCAA Academic All-American. Whitcomb was a member of the Fisher ski team from 2003 to 2010. She was a United States Junior National Champion and won the American Birkebeiner Championship won the United States Super Tour, and was a U.S. Senior National Championship podium finisher. Kate Whitcomb was also a member of the U.S. World Cup ski team.
Kate couldn't be here with us today. Accepting is the executive committee. I know I'm not shocking anyone when I say now you see how great a group of athletes this was. I mean, really very good. So thank you for being a part of our organization now. And I also want to say, and I don't think anybody has said this, thanks to Dustin Belcher for pulling this off in a year when we had no expectations that this could be done. He did an enormous amount of work. Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you, Pat. And congratulations to our 2020 Hall of Fame inductees. In closing, I would like to say thank you to our volunteers, our committee members, and the CRA staff for their dedication and commitment to make today a special event for each of our inductees and for our community. I want to leave you with this thought. Our experience in sports, the relationships, the people we meet, the challenges we overcome, the sacrifices we make, the disappointment of defeat, and the victories we celebrate together are all part of the story. The pride that we hold in representing our community in athletics. We are certainly living in strange times, but I hope this event tonight gave you some excitement and confidence that we can do anything, as we've proven so many times on the athletic field. There will be moments when we'll have challenges and even possibly fears, but when that happens, don't forget to ride your tires. And we're going to be here together in person in 2021 to induct our third class into the Hall of Fame. I thank you all for taking part in tonight's ceremony, and I thank all of our sponsors, volunteers, and committee members for making this truly a special event.